the dreams of what you idealize, of what you want, fall apart very quickly in insecurity and chaos. And Libya and Egypt, I think, are real examples of this, and maybe point to the appeal then of these more authoritarian systems. Because if you live in a country where you're concerned about the violence, you're concerned about the electricity, if we were to take a vote today in Egypt, Sisi would probably democratically overwhelm the opposition, would he not? And do these authoritarians then thrive in this type of chaos? And how do you give a region the patience and the hope that a constitutional government that will have fits and starts will ultimately be more stable for them than an authoritarian regime that dissolves these civic institutions, if your day-to-day lives are fraught with that kind of chaos?
I think it all comes down to education. And I know that sounds like a very, a naive term to say would solve a lot of the issues that we have in our countries, but I think that education is key. And I think it's not education in the classroom, chalkboard style, but I mean education about what the discussion is. Because when it comes to women's rights, in Libya at least, we are being excluded from the conversation. Yes, we're 70% of NGOs, but we are not the decision makers. Conversations about us, about our rights, about our bodies, about our responsibilities are being had at 10 p.m. in rooms that we are not allowed to go in. And the discussion revolves around religious rights, which are misinterpreted and misused, around culture and around tradition, where if we do speak up, people say, well, you're a bad Muslim woman. And it becomes very personal very quick. So we're being excluded from these conversations. And for so many years, we've allowed that to happen. We've said, okay, well, I don't want my personal, status to be involved in this discussion. And what we need to do is, if we cannot force ourselves into those conversations, we need to start to make new conversations. We need to start to make conversations about women after we have educated women about their rights, be it religious rights, which are extremely important because that is how these regimes thrive. Both autocratic regimes and the more extreme regimes thrive through using religion. Which is interesting because autocratic regimes attempt to pretend they're liberal, and yet a lot of their policies towards women use tradition and culture and mislabel it as religion because they know religion is something you cannot debate with. So, for example, in our campaign, in the Noor campaign in Libya, we've taken Quran is our holy book. We've taken verses from it, and we've taken hadiths, which are sayings by the Prophet ﷺ, and we've used those in conversations with women and men. And that is where I think we need to start putting our focus on. We need to change the dialogue because we do not need we don't need to be the victims. We're not the victims. I mean, we've raised these men. Every boy that carries a gun in Libya has a mother, and you can bet at home she's the one in charge. So we need to just make sure that that's seen on the street.